It is time for my very first wrap up. January's done. I read, I think, 8 books. Let me look at my spreadsheet really quick. Also, apologies for the ring light that you can probably see in my glasses. I had meant to film this hours ago when the sun was still out, but my computer took hours to not even fully update. I had to completely turn it off and turn it back on, and I don't want to film this tomorrow, so we're going to film it right now, and we're just going to have to deal with the lighting. So the books that I read in January. So let's start with an audiobook. The first book that I read this month was Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler. I've had this audiobook on Audible for probably over 5 years now. I had previously read Kindred by Octavia E. Butler, and I really loved that. I read it in college in a science fiction class, and it was my first introduction to her, and so I ended up getting this, and I finally used my credit and read it. I read it while I was home over New Year's break, and I did it all in one sitting. It was pretty good. It's about a vampire who is being targeted by, I don't want to give away too much. She's being targeted by somebody. And she wakes up in the woods and ends up finding a guy who ends up being one of her, I don't remember what they call them, familiars. Essentially, she drinks from him and he is compelled to stay with her. Overall, it was pretty good. I know quite a few people have DNF'd it, and there is some I don't know how to describe it. It's not inappropriate. It might feel inappropriate. Like, it's inappropriate sexual encounters because this vampire is in the body of a child, but she is actually like 70 years old already, so she's just a child in the vampire sense, but she is well over the age of 18, and she is having sex with a lot of people. So I think that turned quite a few people off. I gave that book 4 stars. The second book that I read this month was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I love this author, honestly. I think this is the 3rd book I've read from her, and I've loved every single one. I gave this one 4 stars, and I don't really know why I gave it 4 stars, actually. I don't think I wrote anything down on my review, so that is unfortunate for me. But this is about a woman who gets into some trouble, and she lives in London, I think. Yeah, she lived in London, and she got into some trouble at work. It kind of sounded like what she did was well deserved, but she did have legal ramifications. So she ends up going to see her brother in Paris and asking if she can stay with him for a while, but when she gets there, he's gone. He is nowhere to be found. He won't answer the phone. She has to break her way into his apartment building because he's not answering and she can't get in. And you go through a few days of her trying to figure out where he is. And I don't want to say much more because I don't want to give away the ending, but you get to meet all of the tenants and see how he was related to them, what he had been doing in Paris, and all of that kind of stuff. I thought it was pretty good. I guess I felt like something was missing if I only rated it 4 stars, but I can't tell you right now what it was that was missing. Next book that I read in January was Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. I have had this on my TBR for quite a while. I think I bought it. Oh, I have a Christmas list in here. An old Christmas list. I don't know what this is about, but I think I bought it one of the first times that my mom came to visit us in Utah, so that was probably 2021, 22 maybe. I ended up listening to most of it. I didn't open the book much, but the audiobook was pretty good. The synopsis says 12-year-old Berg Gardner lives a quiet existence with his loving but broken father, a former linguist who now shelves books in a university library. Berg knows to not ask too many questions, stand out too much, or stray too far. For a decade, their lives have been governed by laws written to preserve American culture in the wake of years of economic instability and violence. To keep the peace and restore prosperity, the authorities are now allowed to relocate children of dissidents, especially those of Asian origin, and libraries have been forced to remove books seen as unpatriotic, including the work of Bird's mother, Margaret, a Chinese-American poet who left the family when he was 9 years old. Bird has grown up disavowing his mother and her poems. He doesn't know her work or what happened to her, and he knows he shouldn't wonder. But when he receives a mysterious letter containing only a cryptic drawing, he is pulled into a quest to find her. His journey will take him back to the many folk tales she poured into his head as a child, through the ranks of an underground network of librarians, into the lives of the children who have been taken, and finally to New York City, where a new act of defiance may be the beginning of a much-needed change. So, while I was reading this, it was before the inauguration, and things have obviously changed since then, and not necessarily for the better. But while I was reading this, I couldn't help feeling like this is where we're headed. This is what our life might be like soon. And it's not that way yet, but it could very easily be that way. But basically, Bird is a kid who, like the synopsis said, no longer has contact with his mother. He doesn't know why she left. But the story is going through him finding her first, and then the second part, well, he found her with the help of librarian. I love libraries. I love my librarians, and I think you should too. If you don't talk to your librarians, you need to start. But the first part is about him finding her, and then the second part of the book is after he's found her, it goes into all of these flashbacks, and it shows you why she had to leave and how she left. And I found it to be very, very good. I really enjoyed it. I gave this one 5 stars, and I'm going to keep it. This was one of my 24 and 24 books, and generally when I make those lists, it's either books that I think I'm going to love and want to keep, or books that I have held on to for way too long and I need to make myself read them, because chances are I'm not going to want to keep them anymore. So yeah, this one worked out well, and I want to keep it. The next book that I read in January was Flawless by Elsie Silver. I have read from this author before. I read Wild Love to start, and I'm kind of glad I started with Wild Love because I liked Flawless a lot more than I liked Wild Love. This one is about a bull rider, I think is what the sport's called, a bull rider and his agent's daughter, who also works for the agency. She is put in charge of this man because he has destroyed his relationship with one of his main sponsors because he doesn't like milk, and he's sponsored by a milk company. She is assigned to him so that she can make sure he doesn't screw up anymore. And long story short, they end up together, even though they're not supposed to be together. His agent has explicitly said, "Stay out of my daughter's pants," multiple times, and he told his daughter the same thing. Neither of them listened. It was really good. I think I rated it, let's see, where did it go? I rated it 4 stars. So I really liked it, but this is not my perfect romance. Something about it just wasn't exactly what I wanted. I can't put a finger on it. I know tons of people have read it and loved it, so if that sounds like something you'll like, don't let my 1 star being taken off sway you. Go ahead and read it. Next book that I read was another romance. I read Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. My library has a romance book club, and I love it. I try to read as many of the books as I can and go to as many of the meetings as I can because I love having that community, and I want to support my library and make sure that they keep doing programs like this. So this was January's book. I really liked it. I only tabbed one thing, but I think if I was reading along physically while I was listening the whole time, I would have tabbed a lot more. This one is about Yasmin and her ex-husband, I can't remember the names, Josiah, her ex-husband Josiah. Essentially, this is a second chance romance. They were married before, and they ended up getting divorced. This book dealt a lot with depression and grief and anxiety. And this family went through 2 losses in very quick succession. So they lost her husband's aunt, who was essentially her aunt as well. Like, she treated her like family. And then shortly after that, they were supposed to have their 3rd child, and I won't tell you exactly what happened because that's a part of the story. But long story short, they lose the child. And so the reason they got divorced was because both of them were so deep in their grief and their depression, and they did not communicate well. So they get divorced because they aren't supporting each other the way that they need them to. And the book goes through them kind of reconciling, and it shows you how they still co-parent after getting divorced. And it shows them like trying to date new people and realizing, no, I actually don't want to see other people. I'm actually still deeply in love with this person, and I wish we hadn't gotten divorced, essentially. So it's them going through it and figuring out what went wrong and how they need to fix it. I gave this one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend the audiobook. I think they're on Spotify. I'm pretty sure that's where I listen to it, but your library probably also has it too. But yeah, that was definitely a highlight of this month. The next book I read after that was The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. I guess this was just a romance heavy month for me. I don't really know what happened here. But this book, I got it from the library. I got the audiobook. I just checked the footage to make sure it was lined up so that I wasn't just recording and not actually capturing what I wanted to. And I noticed that the vent is like blowing my hair. So if you see my hair blowing in the wind, it's just the vent. Sorry if that bothers you. But back to The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. This was a cozy mystery mixed with a romance, which I haven't really read before. I've read a lot of romance and I've read a lot of cozy mystery, but I haven't read it where it's been like together, like completely enmeshed. Like, it's not just a hint of romance where it's a closed door, like somebody's husband is a side character and then they go have sex but you don't see anything besides a kiss. This had both. It was pretty spicy. I'd say maybe like a 3 out of 5 chili peppers. I'd have to go back and make absolute sure, so don't take my word for it. But these 2 authors, they're both mystery authors. One of them is more like a cozy mystery and one of them is more like a, I don't know what I'd compare it to. I haven't read many books that I would compare to this author. Maybe like Jack Ryan, like more crime spy novel than mystery. And they both get invited to this author's house for the holidays. If you read it, you'll find out why. I don't want to ruin the surprise. But this author goes missing a couple of days in, or maybe it was the first day. She goes missing very shortly after they arrive, and she's leaving clues, but this game that she started very quickly turns deadly and people are actually trying to murder them. The book goes through these 2 authors who, the woman has thought that this man has hated her ever since she met him, and then the man has been obsessed with her ever since he's met her. So there's obviously some miscommunication happening. They end up realizing this miscommunication that they've had over the course of them trying to solve this mystery together. I gave this one, I think 4 stars. Yes, I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. I thought it was a really good ode to the mystery genre. I didn't necessarily like the romance. It felt really insta-lovey once they, figured out the miscommunication that they had. They're just immediately engrossed in each other, even though they barely know each other. So I didn't really love the romance part, but the mystery part was great. The next book I read was Sandwich by Catherine Newman. I'm going to put out a vlog where I've been reading this one. I hope I'm going to put out a vlog. We'll see how editing goes. But I got this from the library on a whim. I just happened to pick it up one day. I go to the library for meetings quite a bit. I work in local government and we tend to have meetings there a lot. But I picked up Sandwich from their new shelf on a whim. I had just seen this book flying around. I didn't know anything about it, had no idea what it was going to be about going in, and it has turned into my best book of the month. Maybe my second best. I think the last book I read is very close in the ranks with it. This is a book about this family who goes on the same vacation every summer together. They spend a week in Cape Cod at the same rental, and this is like the 21st year they've done this. And this poor, I won't say poor, she is a strong woman, but this woman, the mom, her name is Rocky, and she is just going through it. She is really not having a great time. She's been keeping this secret from everybody. She hasn't told a soul the secret. I won't tell you what it was because I want you to read it and figure it out for yourself. But she has been holding the secret in, and it comes to a head on this trip, essentially. I don't know why she decides to tell her daughter on this trip, but she decides to tell her daughter the secret. But leading up to that, you get all of these flashbacks of her and her experiences throughout the years going on this trip every summer. And you get a little bit outside of the trip, but it's primarily all of their experiences in Cape Cod. But she is going through menopause, and she's just become an empty nester within the last couple of years, so she's still dealing with the feelings that she has about no longer having her children at home. And this book is only like 220 pages. It's really short. I read it in 2 days, and it encompasses the female experience so well. I don't know how else to explain it other than that, because we get all of these points of view that she's had as a woman throughout the years of her life. And she talks about how when she became a mom, that was the only thing she was anymore. And there was a time shortly after her second child was born where she felt like she never had time for herself anymore. She didn't feel like she was a full human being anymore. And that feeling has progressed now into her being menopausal and, having mood swings, having hot flashes, having all of these things changing with her body. She can't even have sex anymore because I can't remember what it was called, I can't remember what it was. Essentially her bits are closing themselves off, and it's not fun or comfortable for her to have sex anymore. And her doctor tells her, it's just a part of menopause. And the only solution her doctor gives her when she asks if there's a way to make it better, because she still loves her husband, she still wants to have sex with him, but her doctor is just like, just use lubricant and that's it. It doesn't help. And this woman just goes through all of this stuff. It was really heavy, but really great. And the book, back to the menopause, her body is going through all of these changes, and her kids and her husband and everyone around her is basically acting like, oh no, you're crazy. Yeah, it's the menopause doing this, but you are definitely crazy. And that makes her feel even less like a human. And it's just a lot. It was so good though. There was a point at the end, because her parents show up at some point during the week. They never stay the whole week. They only stay a few days and then they leave. But her mom has some medical things happen while they're there, and she finds out that her parents had also been hiding stuff, not deliberately. They just never told her, never saw a reason to tell her about these things. So her dad ends up telling her at some point on the vacation, I don't remember what the conversation was, but they were having a conversation, and she finds out that her grandparents died in a concentration camp during World War II. And she kind of has a little bit of a meltdown, because she went her entire life thinking that her grandparents had died another way, not in a camp. And her dad doesn't understand why she is so upset about not knowing this. He was like, no, I definitely told you this, even though she has no recollection of him telling her that. And then when her mom gets sick and has to go to the hospital, she finds out that there's a bigger problem that they already have surgery scheduled for, but she has no idea that her mom had even had these issues to begin with. And there is a line that I wrote down. I have a paper somewhere. I can't remember where I put it, but I was writing down quotes that really spoke to me. And she says, something like, why do you never tell me things? And when I read that, I wanted to cry, because I have thought that so many times. Because I live, I don't know how many miles. I live a long ways away from my family, and my only contact with them usually is either phone calls or when I'm like texting them. And for a while, we just didn't talk very much, and I missed a lot of things. I missed a lot of health things. I missed a lot of, things changing with extended family. And a lot of times people act like they've told me these things, and maybe they did and I missed it. But I have like felt crazy and gone back in text to make sure that I didn't miss it. So when she said that to her parents while they were in the hospital, I was like, wow, I am Rocky. Like, I'm 27 and she's 54, but this feels like what I will be like in 27 years when I am 54. So I just really connected with that character, and I really connected with the story. Even though I'm not a mom, I don't have kids, I felt what Rocky was feeling. Another concept, I can't remember what it was, but there was some sort of anxiety that they talked about, because their daughter, she felt like she had passed on her anxiety to her daughter. Maybe not genetically, but like while she was raising her, she accidentally let all of these feelings of anxiety and guilt that she had go into her daughter's psyche. I don't remember what the name of it was. A type of anxiety, basically, where you are always thinking about who's gonna die, how they're gonna die. And I had that when my dog was sick. Like, before he got sick, I would sit there and think of all the things that could go wrong and all the ways that he could die unexpectedly. So I felt that too. Last book, we'll move on. I could talk about Sandwich all day, but the last book I finished in January was The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. So this is the same author who wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, which I'll put here, which I have also read. But when I read Braiding Sweetgrass, I think I did environmental sociology as my master's degree, and I also read a lot about climate change and stuff in my undergrad. And I just felt like I didn't get nearly as much out of Braiding Sweetgrass as everybody else thinks they do. And I hate that for me. Like, I want to love this book as much as other people do, and I can tell that it's beautiful writing. I had an okay time, but I also just felt myself thinking the whole time I was listening to it and reading it, like, when is this gonna end? Like, how many different ways can I be told to love the earth, essentially? That's the only thought I have when I think about Braiding Sweetgrass. But when I listened to The Serviceberry, it was putting a lot of the same, I guess, ideas out. It's only 2 hours long. It's only 100 or so pages. So it's very short, but it is still, like, presenting ideas of environmentalism and social justice and all these things. And she published it, I think it came out before the election happened. If not, I think she definitely wrote it before the election happened, because it was published in November of 2024, so last November. So I don't think at the time that she knew Donald Trump was going to win and that things were going to be the way that they are now. But reading it, it's like a manual of how to resist and how to fight back, and how basically I got a lot out of the book, is the short way to put it. She talks a lot about gift economies and how our economy is not a gift economy. It is not set up for people to continuously gift things to each other. Like, it could be goods or services. People don't just give things to their friends anymore. And we have been caught up in individualism for so long that we have forgotten how to support each other and how to let other people support us. And I think at the end of the book, she goes into ways for you to, like, foster a gift economy in your own life. And I found that really helpful. So I'm looking for a physical copy of this because I just listened to it from the library. But I'm gonna wait until my local used bookstore, it's not local, it's down in Salt Lake, and I'm like an hour and a half away from them, but they can put you on a wait list for used books. So I've put myself on a wait list for The Serviceberry and Sandwich. It'll probably be a long time before they get any copies of those in, but fingers crossed I can get physical copies of both and annotate them. Those are all the books I read. I read 8. I was hoping to get to 10, but that's okay. It's been a long and honestly pretty terrible month. But with my wrap-ups, I also wanted to include any books that I got. I have, I think, 10. Hopefully, most months will be much smaller than this. I'm hoping to only get 2 or 3 books per month. So, we'll just rapid fire them. I'll tell you what it is, where I got it, essentially. I got Bat Eater from Evernight. I showed this in a vlog. It's a beautiful edition. I'm really excited to get to it. I also got a special edition of Water Moon. I don't think I've shown it anywhere, but it's the Owl Crate edition. I'll give you just a general look. So back in October, Owl Crate did the second, I think it's an installment. I can't remember. It might be the 3rd round of special editions for Carissa Broadbent. I got 6 Scorched Roses and The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. I have read this one. I really liked it. I also read the first one in the first duology that she put out, and I really enjoyed that one. I have the second one on deck. I'm probably going to read it this month, actually. And then this is the first one in the second duology. This is following, what was her name? Misha? This is following Misha and her story. I'm really excited to get to them. And then from Aardvark in January, I got The Reformatory. This is a chunk. I didn't know it was this big, but the font's pretty big. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I have paused Aardvark until I catch up. I have 3 books from them, and I want to read all 3 of them before I let myself get any more. And then the last book that I got in the mail was a pre-order. It was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I just read How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix in December. I really liked it. I know a lot of people didn't. I have been hit or miss with Grady Hendrix. I've really loved 2 of the books I've read and really hated one. So I have high hopes for this one. I have heard a little bit about the content and how dark it is. We'll see. I want to read it. I had hoped to read it this month, but with my TBR being as big as it is, I don't think I'm going to be able to. So we'll aim for March. Now we're into my Central Book Exchange book haul. I had to go to Salt Lake for work yesterday, and while we were getting lunch, we were really close to this bookstore called Central Book Exchange, and it's a new and used bookstore, and normally they don't have a ton that I want. Like, I'm usually grasping at straws trying to pick a book or 2, but I think because they were doing double points all of January, they got a lot of really good stuff in, so I had a lot of trouble saying no and not picking up books. So we'll start with these 2. I got the Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. I have the first one of this series, and I am hoping to read it in February, but we'll see. I probably should not have bought these because I haven't actually read the first one, but it's too late for that. This is the only new one I bought, The Overstory by Richard Powers. I have had my eye on this one for a while. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it, but the summary sounded really interesting to me. So I'm excited to read it. Don't know when I'll get to it. I also got We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Berry. I have heard really good things about this on BookTube, and it was used. I only paid $6 for it. So hopefully it's good. And then the last one I got was the sequel to Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. I also have not read that one, but I own it and I have high hopes for it. So when I saw this for $6, I just grabbed it because I figured buying it used and ending up not liking the series is better than me buying them all new. Or, you know, I could just not buy them at all. But yeah. Alright, to finish this out, I just wanted, I think with every wrap up, I kind of just want to update my reading journal. I can't fill any of this out yet. I could probably fill this out. I'm at like 33.4, I think, percent. So highlight this to about here. I have a bad feeling that all of my mild liners are running out of ink. But can't fill this out. Haven't finished the series yet. I've sold quite a few, but not 50. Nowhere near any of these. So we're just gonna go on to the next one. Days that I finished a book. For January, I finished a book on the 2nd. I've got that. Finished a book on the 3rd. Got that 15th, 14th. So I also finished a book on the 20th, the 25th, the 28th, and the 30th. So for the last few weeks, I've really only finished books on days that I have off. Great. Now for pages read, I am currently I'm at 3,585 pages. I didn't think I was that far. I really didn't think I had that many read yet. So we can fill in the 2K box and the 3K box. And then I'm not going to fill in 4K until I actually get to 4K. So right, that page is done. Now we are on this page. I have read 8 books, so I need to fill in 4 more squares. It's like a reward. I still haven't made this page. I don't think I have finished any of these yet, but hopefully next month I'll have quite a few that I can fill in, because I know I have this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one all on my TBR for the month. So hopefully I'll be able to fill in at least a few of those. So I also haven't read any of these yet, but I do have, I think, that one and that one on February's TBR, and then I also have this one, An Academy for Liars, on a different video that I'm wanting to film. For my 2025 vision board bingo, I have tried watercolors. I'm gonna keep going, but I can mark it off, I feel like. I think that's all I can mark off yet. I am working really hard on this. I'm almost done with it, so that should be able to be marked off next month. And then hopefully I'll finish one more of these projects, and hopefully one of these financial ones in the next month. I'm not holding my breath on this, because if I'm focusing on these projects, I'm not as likely to work on this. So hopefully I'll be able to mark at least one of these off, if not this too. I think that's it. I don't think I've made any progress on these series. Let me look through them really fast to make sure. Okay, yeah, I haven't made any progress on these, but I can add some series. Let's see which books I started that were in the series. I read Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. That is the first in a series called Skyland. I want to write up here like 2025 starts or something like that. So I'm going to write it down here. It was called Skyland. And it has 3 books in it. I think the 3rd one comes out this year. I'll draw in the boxes later. I don't have all this stuff with me right now. And then I also read Flawless by Elsie Silvers, and that is the first book in the Chestnut Springs series. And I think that was it. Those were the series I started. So only 2 series started. That's not too bad. Hopefully this month I will be able to mark this one off as finished. The ACOTAR series. Solitaire I should be able to mark off. Empyrean, I have the audiobook. It's not on my TBR, but I could conceivably finish this one this month. Love Light Farms I could also maybe finish this month, just depending on where I'm at with the TBR. Oh, I have the Gilded Ones. I have that series on my TBR this month. I don't think I won't be able to read the 3rd one this month, but I'll be able to at least make progress. And that is the last page. I have some ideas for some other spreads that I want to do. I just haven't had time to add anything to my journal lately. So that's it for now. I forgot that I wanted to talk about stats in my wrap-up video. So this is my stats. In December, I had 716 owned books, and the total I had read was 239. This counts audiobooks and physical books and ebooks. So this is not all of the books that I have on my shelf. It's all the books I have in general. But that number came out to 33.37% of my library read. One of my main goals for the year is to have 50% read. I think that's pretty lofty, but we're going to shoot for it. And then in January, I don't know how I got 13 more books. I don't really know where the other 3 came from. Oh, I forgot in my haul. I also hauled an audio version of Onyx Storm because my mom got an extra Libro. I don't know what you call it, like a Libro code. So she didn't have to pay for it and I didn't have to pay for it, and she already had one. So now I have the audio of Onyx Storm. So that makes my haul 11 books. I still don't know where the other 2 books came from, and I did unhaul one that I decided I just was never going to read. So we're at 729 owned and 244 read. So that is an increase of 13 in the owned and an increase of 5 in the total read. And that still somehow brought my percent read up from 33.37 to 33.47. So normally I would really like to see that number go up by like 1 or 2% at least, but this month I just bought too many. So next month we'll have to be better about not buying books. Yeah, I think that's actually it this time. Let me know what you read this month, what your favorite read of January was. I'm sure a lot of you were struggling like I was, so don't feel bad if you didn't read anything. It's okay. You can always read later. The books will still be there. But yeah, if you've read any of the books that I hauled and think I should get to them sooner rather than later, let me know. But other than that, thanks for watching. If you don't have anything to say in the comments, leave me a book stack emoji because I bought too many books this month.